Howdy guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's episode we're going to be tackling a few little niggly jobs, starting with these windscreen wipers which are really bugging me. So let's get straight into it. Now in the last episode we actually went to the trouble of fitting a heavy duty washer jet for the windscreen to replace the old plasticky one, and I'm really pleased with how it's performing. I do need to upgrade or replace the pump because it is a little bit weak, but one thing I have noticed is my windscreen wipers just don't seem to settle down at the bottom, so they do need adjustment. They're also fairly weathered, so you can see they've got bits of paint chipped off them and they're a bit mucky, and although I've got some fairly new wiper blades, they're not that effective. So I'm going to be fitting a kit that LR Parts offer, and I quite like the kits they do because you just know that everything's in there and you're not going to start a job and then not be able to finish it because you're missing bits. So in the kit itself you get these satin arms, which I think are a little bit nicer than the gloss ones that were on there originally. So you also get a new mounting spline that goes onto the regulator arms, and that can be useful if your old one's just worn out, if they've come loose and they're just sort of, that might be the reason why mine are moving around on their own. Get a little grub screw in there as well, so the whole kit's there, and we've got these upgraded BOSCH wiper blades, so these are definitely more effective. They're not as original looking, but I don't mind that. I'd rather have something that works effectively and efficiently and does a good job of clearing the windscreen. We've got a new windscreen on there, so there's no reason why it shouldn't be cleaned beautifully, and hopefully these will do the job. So let's do the job itself. It's a pretty simple thing. We might have a little bit of an issue getting the old spline off because these do sort of seize up. I'm going to put some thread lock on the little grub screw. I don't know if you can see there, it's got a little grub screw inside, and we'll put some thread lock on there to make sure it doesn't come loose, and let's see if we can get the old one off. So let's get cracking. Now the way these arms work is they use the pressure of the spring inside the arm itself to actually clamp it onto the splines. So to remove the arm itself you just need to extend it completely upright, and just be careful it doesn't flip back, and certainly don't remove these wiper blades just yet, because if you do that and you lose grip it's going to smash forward and it could possibly crack your windscreen. So all we want to do is just lift that up, and then this should slide off. Now you might need to wiggle a little bit, but look, that's pretty simple, isn't it? So inside here we've got the female version of the spline. There's the male, and it doesn't look overly worn, but it's certainly nowhere near as good as the new one that we're going to put on, hopefully. So that's the first job. We've got the arm off. Let's have a go at the spline. Now I'm going to put WD-40 on both of these, and especially in that little slot there where the grub screw's fitted. Now I'm going to assume the grub screw in here is going to be the same as the one on the vehicle. It's probably going to be a 2.5, I guess. Yep, good guess. So 2.5 mil. Okay folks, so Allen key just won't go in far enough, so there's a possibility it's imperial, but I doubt it, it's just a bit worn. So what I'm going to do is use a T10 Torx, because that seems to go in a lot deeper and it's got a nice bit of grip, you can just see in there. And I'm going to use this little mini ratchet that goes over the top, and hopefully that will, look, that's done the job a treat. That is pretty stiff in there. This little Tang Tools mini ratchet is so good. So it looks like it's got a bit of thread lock on there already. How easy that's going to be to pull off either, I don't know, it's been on there a while. Okay, so I'm going to use my mole grips, and I'm only going to grab that outside shoulder. Don't want to damage the splines, because this doesn't necessarily mean this is going to come off easily. What I might do actually is give it a little tap. Don't want to overdo it because it will basically clamp it onto that spline or that shaft, that spindle. So don't want to over clamp it in case it just traps it onto that spindle even more. And again, I'm just rocking it to see if we can get it removed. I think that's coming. Yeah, there we go. So give it a bit of a clean on that. And I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a little tiny groove in the spindle where the grub screw sits. Now, what I am going to do is, if you're a regular viewer, I'm going to use my thread lock chapstick. So how many of you haven't bought one of these yet? The old one with the grub screw, it's got a flat surface in the center here, look. It's flatter at the top, at the bottom, but that's where the grub screw is. On the new one, it's just round, it's got one flat section. That flat section actually sits at the top. So don't put it on upside down, because there's a flat piece on the bottom of this spindle here. You might want to sort of put that on upside down, but don't do that, because you've got to have the grub screw needs to be at the top on the spindle. So chapstick, little bit of thread lock, don't need loads obviously because it's a tiny piece. I'm going to be using the 2.5mm Allen key on these. That does fit, that's going in nicely. Now keep doing it up, but moving it on the spindle, and you'll feel it catch on that little indentation. That's starting to catch now, so we know we're in the right place. And then to torque it up, don't use the ball end of the Allen key, just tighten it up like that, and then we're all good to go. So there we are. Now, who knew that fitting a windscreen wiper could be so involved? But obviously we're doing lots of little different things here, and I'm just drawing from my own experience of having damaged windscreens and damaged splines and threads and everything else. So hopefully this will just be a quick guide. You'll be able to have those little warnings in your mind so that you don't do what I've done in the past. So again, one thing that you might be tempted to do is put this arm straight on here and then lever it up to fit the windscreen wiper blade. Then if it smashes down on the windscreen, you're done for. So we're going to put the blade on the arm itself first. These particular ones, that just lifts up. You slide the arm through onto the catch, little click, drop that down. Now open up your arm completely. Now before we put it on, let's just line it up. So that looks about right. So once it's there, we want to then push on this piece, lift the arm, and it's on the spline already. Drop it down and we're good to go. So that literally is how to do it. Now if I have them on full, turn them off, see where they rest. Oh, it's dreadful. Right, so that's where they're resting at the moment. So if we now adjust them, there we go. Obviously quite a bit of wear in my motor. There we go. So that's just that final little adjustment that makes all the difference, really. There we go, perfect. Now our next job should be fairly simple on paper. We're just going to be replacing the old bonnet hinges. Now there's quite a few options on the market. And I thought I'd show you a couple here. Now we're going to choose a set that will complement our Exmoor trim satin finished hinges. So we've got a couple of options we could fit in this price range. Now firstly, we've got these ones from LR Parts. These are a gloss finish, which is really nice. And if you've got sort of KBX grille, KBX wingtop finishes, anything gloss, maybe some sawtooth alloys or something on your vehicle, these are going to complement that look really nicely. And the thing I do like about them is they've got this unique sort of hinge buffer replacement system that goes straight through into the actual hinge locator on the bulkhead, and that looks like it could be quite a nice, if not a more secure fitment. So I might have a go at fitting that actually. So we're going to fit one of each, but ultimately, because of the way our vehicle looks, we're going to be going for these ones, which are a satin finish. And the reason we're going for those is because they're going to complement the hinges that we've got from Exmoor trim. Now the best way to do this is to do one at a time, because then you're maintaining the bonnet position correctly. So we're going to do this one first. It's quite simply a case of just taking these three bolts out, and we should be able to then remove the actual hinge itself. So we'll get the bonnet up. So access is pretty easy. You've just got these 3 nuts here to undo on this particular one. If you've got the old style and you've got the Phillips head on the outside, that's pretty simple. They should undo from the inside, to be fair, because they're probably seized into the cast hinges. But either way, it's just really a case of just loosening off those nuts from the outside. Now, the way the buffer works in here is it can only be removed when it's at full open height like that. And I'll show you on here. So we just slide this little buffer out from inside. If you can see that there. So be careful when you're shutting the bonnet with just one hinge. You don't want to damage too much paint. So, oh, interesting. So it looks like actually the bonnet's had a respray, but it's been done with that bonnet hinge in place. So it's not going to look as good as it could, but it'll look okay until we actually decide to do some paint work on the vehicle. So slide your buffer in with the thinner piece towards the bulkhead, like so. Drop your hinge into it and down. Now we should be able to get our nuts and bolts in there pretty easily. Now if we open the bonnet again carefully, like so, and the last one. Now the holes are only a little bit oversized in the bonnet, so there's not a lot of adjustment. So I would imagine this should be fairly spot on. Let's have a quick look. Yep, and you can see I've just basically mirrored the original location. The buffer's all in place perfectly. They look really nice. Really like that. Looks great. That is a massive improvement over that, wouldn't you say? Here we've got our torques. We just want to loosen that off. There we go. Make sure you don't lose those little washers in between. Oh Christ, in between. There we go. Now I'm going to leave it loose just while I put the bolts through. Right, these are actually an 11 underneath. So just keep your little finger or your big finger. So they are coach bolts, so as long as they're located in the hinge itself, they shouldn't move. So there it is, fitted. So the gap between the bulkhead and the bonnet is quite a bit bigger on this one, the way this is assembled. But I do like the look of it, and it is a nice change to the original. Yeah. Here is our gloss with the coach bolts, the stainless coach bolts. And we'll just pan over now to the satin finish one. Right, so we've got both of those Britpart bonnet hinges fitted in the satin black, and they look fab. So we've got a really easy one now, and I'm going to treat the Defender to a bit of bling, I guess you could call it. We've actually got this beautiful CNC machined fuel cap from OPTIMILL in black. They do one in silver, which actually is really nice, but we've gone for the black because it just complements the rest of the build. So you've got OPTIMILL etched on the side there. You get a new key, and while that's you know, a bonus for us, it's great because ours doesn't lock properly at the moment, which is why we need to get a new one. So it's a pretty easy job. It's not the key that says fuel on it. It's the other one. So that if you steal the keys, that'll fool you. There we go. So that now comes undone. Then we'll put our new one on. Oh wow, that is beautiful. So it does just work so nicely. I don't know, it's bizarre. When you put things like this on a vehicle, you just don't realise how not nasty, but how basic the original parts were. There's such a positive click, it just fits nicely. You can unscrew it easily. Everything is machined, so in theory, I don't want to get shot down here. Look at that, just real easy turn of the key, and it's locked, and it looks the part. That looks great. So I've had a few of you in the comments mentioning that you've actually bought one of the gas struts that we featured in a previous episode to help with the rear door. And although we've got the swing away wheel carrier on here, it doesn't make too much difference to the weight on the door. In fact, it helps if anything. Now, there have been a few comments about the gas assist strut that we fitted on the rear door here. And I just thought I'd show you guys how we're getting on with ours. It's been really good. As you can see there, look, working a treat. Not getting any bending on this bracket at all. It's all fitted correctly. Just remember, if you are fitting this brace plate that goes on the inside of the vehicle has to go between the two handles. It doesn't go on this side. You'll be putting way too much pressure on that gas strut if you do that. So make sure you put it in the middle. It does take a bit of effort to close, but that's because it's designed to stop blowing shut. But basically just lean against it, and then job's a good one. So yeah, that's a really good product. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm sorry I have to cut the edit a little bit shorter than expected. I was hoping to do a couple more jobs, but I've managed to catch COVID again, so that's why I've been sweating so much in the video you've just been watching, so apologies for that. But I will be back very soon. I'm recovering already, so in the next few days there'll be a new video out. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please do give me a thumbs up, please subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.